can see the total of employed female are well below 100. In fact, the unemployed ratio is well below 100. It's actually twice. It means females are twice being unemployed than males. Or actually, even worse, females are 3 times higher. Here, the number is almost 300, right? So female is 3 times higher than males, as they are not in the working force. So this is a fact that is really inspire us, and this is where HiCups comes in. So HiCups' vision is to empower women, to promote actually women's empowerment and welfare through a sustainable employment and income earning. So here, now I'd like to take a little deep dive about HiCups and what we're doing. Right, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about myself and then a brief overview about HiCups, and then basically what our product, our prices, our places as distribution places, and our promotions. A little bit about myself. As mentioned before, I graduated from Cornell University with a Bachelor of Science in Food Science, graduated with magna cum laude, and then a little bit after I worked at the world's biggest dairy manufacturer in the US, Lactalis American Group. Before I went back home, I took my business master in business from London Business School and Fudan University, Shanghai. And then in 2018, I went back home and then I worked for Heinz. Then in the late 2019, I started to build HiCups. So what is HiCups, right? So again, our vision is to empower women financially and emotionally in Tier 2 and Tier 3 and rural areas across Indonesia. So we are the leading casual beverage chain in those areas. We have special training focusing on the financial inclusion, food safety, hygiene, and career development for women, typically in Tier 2, Tier 3, and rural areas in Indonesia. Currently, we are running profitably and all the 40 outlets. So our products. So we are beverages company. We have two different products. The cold product, the one that you see on the left side, and the hot beverages, which is that with the packaging that you see at the right side. And this is a little bit about our product. As you can see, it's very eye-catching. We take we pay attention about the design and the color, and how you can see we have layers on our drinks, right? Because in what we've learned in our market, in our target market, they really like the drink to be very eye-catching and colorful as well, right? So this is a little bit about our products. Now it comes to our prices, right? Since we are in rural areas, so the market is very price sensitive. So price is the key driver of their spending, right? So here you can see our prices ranges from 50 cents US dollar to less than $1, right? And then places, well, just like all other F&B, we have our offline stores and online stores. So this is a samples of our offline stores. We do have indoor and we have outdoor. So we are very flexible in terms of our stores. We can do it actually anywhere within the cities or the malls. And then online stores, as you know, we are in the GrabFood and GoFood as well. Promotion. So as you know, also F&B is we gotta be very innovative and always active in promotions, right? So we do very active promotions in terms of our online stores in GoFood or in GrabFood, or our offline stores as well. So this is just some of the programs that we have for our promotions. And in fact, the key for us to be able to still surviving during this pandemic is to still collaborate with the other sellers, not only F&B, but all kinds of seller. One of the example here, the third flyer, you see the Saruni Jaya. So for example, if you spend 50K IDR, you will get this coupon for high cup that you can trade for buy one get one. And this is how I keep a very active and collaborative environment within each seller so that everyone can benefit from the ecosystem, right? Now a little bit about us. I just wanted to show you our just the outlets, what it looks like, and our target market. As you can see here, our target market is probably class C and below, right? And this is the samples of our customers as well. So that's pretty much about high cups, and feel free if you guys have any questions or would like to have some clarifications.
Yep. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for elaborating like about your company, like the business model itself, about like the pricing. I think that's like a really good display of like an 4P analysis marketing plan.
Yeah, I'm just doing a very simple 4P
Yeah,
analysis.
yeah. I think every business students would resonate with that explanation, especially the marketing people there. So yeah, I think before we dive in more into like your company, so how did like your learnings and like Cornell, because I know you took food science in Cornell, right? That's like
Yeah,
a really specific major. Like how does it shape your perspective on your career? Like how
right.
does like your teachers in the maybe professor in the food science department like taught you about like the food industry, the food F&B industry?
Well, to be honest, in Cornell, it is a very competitive school, right? But in Cornell, they really taught us the importance of always to collaborate with other people and to always embrace competitions, right?
Mm.
So that's what really one takeaways that I got from Cornell, that everyone is very smart. We all have the equal chance, but only through teamwork, through collaborations, you can get so far, right? So that's one thing, especially in F&B. I feel like food and beverages industry, it has a low barrier to entry. Anyone can sell food or beverages, right? So to be an F&B player, it's not it's not hard. But to be a sustainable one, it is then you need to thrive and survive. And that's what really Cornell taught me is the important to always embrace competitions. Yeah.
Yeah, because like like right now in college, like everyone is like trying to like get their minds on like ideas for businesses. So like
Right.
did you get this idea, like did you get this idea that you want to like start an F&B business starting from college, or like this idea just came like
Yeah.
after you graduate and after you
Yeah.
got into
Yeah.
your career?
Yeah, so well, when I was in college, I'm like you guys, right? Still not sure what I'm going to do next, and just trying to take any opportunities I can, right? And then to lengthen also my resume at that time, right? But then throughout times, I meet a lot of people. I learn from a lot of people. Then I find these opportunities that we are very passionate about women empowerment. That I think it can work well with I'm doing best, which is in the F&B industry, right? All I've known from the start is I always want to work in the F&B industry. What am I going to be? I don't know. What kind of product? When I was in college, I don't know. But I know I love to work in the F&B, right? But then when I came back to Indonesia, I found this opportunity for rural areas in Indonesia where I can also channel my passion for women empowerment. So I just married those ideas, and now I have high cups. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is just a learning over time. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like, how did they actually build your team? Because like I think as a startup founder, because me and like some other people here are
Right.
also planning to make us our own startup, and like we're trying to figure out like how we're gonna make our core team. Is it like from our friends or like maybe just from like acquaintance, but like they have the technical skills. Like how did they choose your initial core team for H Cups?
Well, I always say, well, if you're, I always say to my husband, if you want to have a co-founder, right, the right co-founder, it's like you meeting with your wife or your husband, right? It's not easy, and by the end of the day, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, right? To be honest, I am still a solo founder for Hike Up. I'd love to have a co-founder. I'd love to have a partner. However, a lot of people take interest in Hike Ups, but once they've seen the market, oh, it's tier 2, tier 3 rural areas, then they take a step back, because yeah, so meeting people, it's what I thought my friend gonna fit in, but they might not have the same interest, right? But I found people, the one right now that are in my core team actually right now are the ones that I initially have not thought that they will be working with me. So that's actually the surprise. Actually, in this entrepreneurship, it's always there's surprising moments, unexpected moments, that things always goes on not according to your original plan, right? So always embrace that kind of new opportunities or whoever knocking on your door, because it may get you far.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like one of the most important things, like when you start off a business, is getting the initial funds, initial capex and
Right.
opex.
Right. Right.
And I think like the challenge for many of us is like, how to convince like the investors, maybe not VC, but like just general investors, like even like from family, from friends. It's
Right.
still hard to like, convince them that like this is actually a really good opportunity for them. So how did you initially start off, like, get all the funds, like the initial funds for
Right.
H cup, high cups. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So for Hike Up itself, I started with a less than $500, to be honest. So I bought this used um what do you used store, right? It's a used store, used freezer, used refrigerator, and I use all the money to buy the ingredients and stuff. And then I started. The first 2 3 months was very tough, right? But then after I get a lot of customer feedbacks and complaints, I jot down everything and do evolutions as what the feedback and the complaints. Then we start to get traction. And in F&B, actually, once you get that kind of traction, once you hit that product market fit, then whatever the revenue I gets in, I invest back to the business actually. So currently, I am still bootstrapping. Everything I get for the business, I invest back to the business. Yeah, yeah.
So right now, have you gotten like any external funding from like VCs, or are you still like bootstrapping and still waiting for the right moment to like get funds from VC?
Yeah, so currently I'm not in the fundraising mode or looking for an
Fund.
investor. Yeah, still bootstrapping, and everything I get from the business, I just invest back to the business.
So yeah, I think like right now, even like during the pandemic, like one of the most important thing like to make your business successful is like how to enhance your marketing capabilities,
Yeah,
because like everyone is like having like distributing their posters or like their
right,
marketing contents like through Instagram.
correct,
Even like Rifki, this I have
right.
Rifki is also here. So he also owns an F&B business, Urban Eats. Shout out.
I see, I
So
see.
yeah, I think like what is the most effective way to like gain traction to your like specific target audience?
Well, again, because my market is for tier 2, tier 3, and rural areas, what we do best is actually we do a lot of offline promotions. And as I've shown a little bit earlier, we do have a lot of collaborations with other sellers in the malls. For example, you Ardian, you sell hijab, for example, and I sell high cups. So I just tell whomever spend, say 50K at your store, Adrian, then you can give your customer this buy one get one coupon to spend their money on me. So in a way, everybody win-win, right? Because in tier 2 and tier 3 and rural areas, we still depend a lot on these offline promotions. So yeah, we do have a lot of marketing campaigns, but we tend to do it offline. Digital marketing is very important. I do agree, and it is still our homework actually to step up our digital marketing. But yeah, during pandemic, what we do the most is mostly offline promotions. What effort promotion that we can do to actually increase the productivity or revenue for the outlets. right?
So basically like subsidy from like promotion, like vouchers, something like that, right? Like that's like for tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah,
So tier
yeah,
2 and tier 3 cities is like, okay, like Tangerang, like basically the suburbs, right? Like the suburbs.
yeah. Suburbs or even in the secluded area as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How did you found out about that opportunity in the first place? Because like I know like now like everyone is like into the F&B business. Like how do you like exactly like
Yeah.
did you do like in-depth like research before like towards tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, obviously my when I was working in my previous company, it exposed me a lot of learnings and to a lot of people as well, to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, right? In my previous company, it sells a lot of FMCG's product, for examples, that goes to a lot of these rural areas. So I do tend to take my learning from my previous companies or the people that I met to build these high caps, right? And yes, I do a lot of visits to these small rural areas as to do a surveys and see. That's how I started in the beginning. I check the area, check the people, check the market, and see if it's fit, right? Yeah,
Yep, yep.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like for operational wise, like I think because like I because like the ingredients are basically like perishable goods. So how do you like make sure that your ingredients like when at first maybe like like if you utilize any warehouse, like when it first go to the warehouse and then it goes to like the store, like it's still like fresh. Like
Right,
do you have like
right.
any operational insight on that? I don't know. I don't know. You don't need to like explain
Yeah,
like in detail, but yeah.
I got it. I got it. Well, so this is why actually I choose to build High Cup as a beverage company because the complexity when you deliver beverages and food are very, very different complexity, especially if you're talking about fresh products, right? While beverages, you deal a lot with milk, with powder, for example, or vacuum packed stuff that is easier to move, to send out rather than say you have vegetable fresh fruits. It's very hard and the shelf life tends to be shorter on fresh products, right? That's why right now High Cups is focusing a lot for our beverages products because we are serving in the rural areas where we know logistics and supply chains is the main challenge.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically, like where how like do you have like any sustainability parameter for like how do we source, like do you source only to like specific like supplier that is like green, like how do you like pick your suppliers?
Well, in terms now, especially because of the pandemic and a lot of actually a lot of our ingredients have price increase and stuff. So basically, what we want our vision first, again, is to empower women, right, and their welfare. So that is always gonna be our priority. But then, in terms when you go about ingredient, I need to make sure that my vendor or my suppliers they have the certificates that is needed to that is says it's actually safe to eat, right? And that's what differentiates us from other players, especially in the rural areas, right? Because they're typically locally made or the sources are unknown, for example. But in us, we make sure we have all the paperwork to be thrilled. So and then I can monitor each batch of what goes where. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, yeah.
So and yeah, I think I read through an article, one article in Google, and I think it's like your main vision and your main focus here and conviction is like women empowerment. I think that's really interesting. And so how do you like make like a whole like business like ecosystem that nurtures woman empowerment, like from end to end, like how do you make sure that like the business operations like supports your vision on like women empowerment?
Well, first I started with my core team, right? My core team is mostly also women. 80% of them are women, right? And I really take my time to build a very strong core team. And from this core team, then they are the one who trains other women in these rural areas to become our team, right? So So basically, it's like a mentorship in a way, right? Because all they need to see is if other women can do it, they can also do it, right? And one of the main driver of why these women are the statistic that I showed you guys and why they are mostly not in the working force is simply because there are not enough opportunities that actually encourage them to work, right? Typically, a lot of employers choose men over women for a lot of reasons. One of the reason because men are physically stronger, for example. Um, but yeah, we do provide equal opportunity. I mean, like we prioritize to train women by having a very strong core team as well. That then I hope it can help to shift their mindset that women can also do it, that women can also work, and it's okay to work.
Yep. Yeah, because I think like I think now it's the time to focus on women empowerment because like obviously like we want like equal opportunities for every woman and not only like in the maybe like white collar jobs but also maybe
Right.
like blue collar middle income, so like those who have doesn't have any skills like they still can get enough enough income to like support their lifestyle.
Right.
And I think one of the most interesting thing in the F&B business is that we need to like constantly innovate, constantly like create maybe like in your case like new flavors because
Yeah.
like otherwise they're just like the F&B market is just like very saturated right now, like so many competitors everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, so how do you like constantly innovate, like maybe like so do you like do it like in a cycle, like in a cycle you introduce like new products and the ideation process itself, so how do you do it basically?
So yeah, in the F&B industry, you do need to stay innovative all the time because, like I said, there is a very low barrier to entry. Anyone can do it. But then you need to be able to stay ahead of your competition. For example, what we've done so that our promotions always to be very engaging, very eye-catching, is we do seasonal products. For example, in the past Valentine's, we do have these drinks called Gurindu. It's gulali rindu that we only release during Valentine's, right? And then Lebaran, we do have special promotion for Lebaran. It's called Berkah, berbuka bersama high cups. So we do use that catchy names for our menu and then for our promotions to celebrate what's the moment as well, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And last question, and I think I also got inspired from someone, and so someone sent a question on the Google form.
Okay.
What keeps you awake at night, especially when thinking about your business and like because I know it's really stressful, like doing like making startup and like maintaining the startup itself. And how do you remain committed like to your startup, even though like there's many challenges, many hurdles in it. Like how do you like keep committed to it?
I think I always believe whatever your position, whether in your startup or not, it's always stressful. If it's not stressful, it means you're not having enough higher target, right? So I always tell people to keep going throughout your stressful day. You just have to have your passion, right? Because especially in entrepreneurship, every day there's going to be a lot of surprising moments. There's also a lot of good days and bad days, right? But what keeps you going on those bad days is only your passion. If you really like what you're doing, if you really believe on your vision and you will make it happen, you will tend to see the longer term, the longer impact, right? So always have this passion to keep you going. And since I'm very passionate about this women empowerment, and I know through this program, to this company, we can elevate women a lot in this area. So that's what keeps me going. So that passion for this woman empowerment and my vision for high cups.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I also agree with you. I think conviction, the strength of your conviction towards your your business is
yeah,
what makes you remains committed and motivated, even though like there are many hurdles. I think that's like a really
yeah,
insightful because I think because most of people, I mean, many people just make startup because like they see like the monetary rewards in it, like oh, I'm gonna get like so much money, but they're not really passionate in it. And in the end, when
yeah,
I'm like kasar kayak shit gone wrong, like they're just not gonna be like motivated to like to like continue doing the business. So I think yeah,
yeah.
conviction is really important.
I always
Okay.
think if your target is monetary value, then entrepreneurship might not be for you because there's no guarantee, right? As opposed if you work in a company, at least you will have your salary. Or if you're a very good employee, you will have your bonus. But whatever happens, you will at least have your salary, right? But
Yep.
in entrepreneurship, today it can go boom or tomorrow can go bust. It really depends on you and your conviction, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
why I think yeah, all of us needs to like have our own conviction in
yeah,
our kind of
agree.
business. Okay. Thank you, Kathleen. I think we're gonna move on to the next speaker, and later we're gonna have a Q&A session for both Kathleen and also Frans here. So I think we're gonna move on to Cherise right now. Maybe Cherise, can you
Thank
introduce
you.
yourself?
Sure, yeah. Thank you, Kathleen, for your sharing. I'll be introducing our next speaker, Frans Widjaja. He is the Chief Product and Innovation Officer at Ismaya Group, market leader in conceptualizing lifestyle hospitality in Indonesia. We're very honored to have you here, Frans. He obtained his bachelor's degree in UC Irvine and had executive training certificate from Cambridge University. And he's also currently co-founder and advisor of Yummy Corp, the first and largest cloud kitchen operator in Indonesia. And he's also co-founder and advisor member of ID Loyalty Consulting Company. I think it's such an honor for for us to have you here. Safe to say that, amongst, for my generation at least, like on behalf of all of us, we owe Ismaya some of our best memories. We the Fest DRP Jakarta Culinary Festival. So yeah, welcome. Before we move on to the questions that some of the participants have prepared, do you want to maybe share a bit about yourself and your role and your past work in Ismaya?
Hi, Cherise. Thank you for the grand introduction. It's really my honor to be invited and to be able to share some of my experiences with everybody here. So thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for organizing this event. Again, my name is Frans Widjaja, and I am one of the directors at Ismaya Group. I did go to school at UC Irvine. It was definitely a fun time in California. And I'm glad that I was able to actually help be a part of the growth of Ismaya Group. In fact, I was with Ismaya Group ever since we started in 2003. When the company was first starting, I was in a dilemma actually at the time to either start with a company that I have worked so hard during my college years to be a part of, which was X Anderson Consulting, which is known now as Accenture. And back then, it wasn't so easy to get into Accenture. They were only recruiting about 4 people from UC Irvine per year. And it was an opportunity that I really didn't want to give up. So when my cousin actually was starting the company, I was at a position where I was able to help them find the first chef for the company, and also make a decision at the time that I think, for me to also make sure that I didn't regret getting into Accenture. He was like, okay, well, you know how the restaurant industry is, it has a very high failure rate. So I don't want to take you down with me if the restaurant doesn't do well. And at the time, it was actually more of a club/restaurant, which would mean that even the stakes are even higher. So that was Blowfish that we first created. And so after finding the first chef of Blowfish, I did tell him that I would try out Accenture, help my parents out with their needs in the States at the time. And I was fortunate enough that to hear that actually Blowfish was doing well. So I did tell him that, whenever he needs me back, then I would come and help the group grow. So sure enough, after a few years working at Accenture, I was able to come back to Indonesia and help Ismaya grow to what it is today.
I think we prepared a short clip. Should we turn it
Yes.
on right now just to show everyone?
Thank you, Cherise. Yeah, so I think it's a video that the team had made. One of my favorite videos about the company that they put together. especially for those who probably haven't heard of Ismaya yet, or are not quite familiar with the brands that's under the Ismaya umbrella. This video hopefully will give a bit of an overview and some facts about the company, okay?
Yeah, Aryan, are you ready for that?
Yep.
All right. Wow, yeah, what a great video. Um, I think, just from the video itself, we've seen all that you've done. I think this video was back in 2016. And it said 5,150 events. I'm not sure how much you have now, but since you're always innovating, always creating new products, can you also maybe share to us what's the process like of creating a new product or a new restaurant? maybe from your end?
Well, I always kind of joke with a lot of my friends and the people who ask me similar questions about how Ismaya operates. And I joke that we actually all have ADHD, my partners and I. Um, Primarily, I mean, you can see from the portfolio of different companies and brands that we have, it's really driven out of passion, to be honest. A lot of us are creatives, and each of us has different strengths that complement one another. So I'm very fortunate to have the partners that I have, and a lot of the ideation can happen actually from any of us. A lot of the times it comes from one partner who sees an opportunity, thinks about a gap in the market, or identifies a gap where something is not available yet, or something is actually able to solve a particular problem, and we discuss it amongst each other and discuss whether that idea is something that we all support and believe in. And I think that's the first step, getting that validation amongst each other. And the second is really working together with the rest of our team to pull together all the data that's necessary. Even these last few years, we've been working a lot more with data versus previously, where it's been a lot more on gut feeling and trying to better understand whether the data supports our gut feeling. So as most of our business relates around design or creating F&B restaurants or concepts, generally the next biggest step for most of our brands is really developing that overall concept, from design to menu offering to service offering to the playlist, through the actual details that go into the restaurant. So we do engage a lot of third-party support in terms of contractors and designers. But at the end of the day, we're still very hands-on. A lot of the concepts that we built are homegrown, and they're actually also utilizing designers and contractors that are from Indonesia as well.
Yeah, and since of course you've started a while back, since 2003, and of course time went by, and of course there's quite some challenges you faced when building Ismaya to where it is now. Can you maybe touch on like some of the more significant ones, and like how did you face that while facing competition from other F&B groups in Jakarta or Indonesia?
I think the scene in Indonesia is a lot different now compared to when we first started. It was much easier back then, and that was part of the driving force of why we did what we did and why we created Ismaya, is because many of my partners and I, we're all overseas graduates, and we did see that there are a lot of great places to eat and to hang out when we were going to school. And coming back to Indonesia, we just felt that this is such a great country, it's such a great city, Jakarta, that it just felt that there was a lack of great F&B options, a lack of lifestyle destinations. And we just felt that we had to do something about it. And we felt that there was a great opportunity to do so. So I think we did realize that over time, we became inspiration to many. And we also realized that there was a lot of great competitors that were coming on the scene. And there were a lot of great brands that were being franchised into the country. And of course, we're always telling ourselves, and I think we're always reminding the rest of our team too, that no matter what, no matter how big we become, or how well known maybe some people say we are, I think you can never let your guard down. I think not just for the sake of the company, but for yourself as an individual. I always believe in growth, personal growth, company growth, and in order to do that, you've got to continue to challenge yourselves. And I think it's one of the things that we always are trying to do, is to stay innovative, to try and see what the new latest trends are, and also most importantly, listen to what the market wants, listen to what our guests and consumers also are saying about us. So, and really accepting with open arms that if we are ever having any issues, that we should strive to correct them and to do better. So I believe that's one of the things that that keeps us on our toes and keeps us growing, is that we come to terms that there are a lot of great competitors out there. And as Kathleen mentioned earlier as well, that F&B has very low barrier to entry, and especially with Ismaya Group, we we didn't really have much fear back then, to some degree, and to some degree we didn't feel that there was one magic solution to a successful business, right? There are so many moving elements that we didn't feel the need to protect our recipes per se, right? Or protect our SOPs. In many ways, the way that we operated was very open, and not so much so that that it was open to anyone who could access it, but so much more of a culture that we had inside the company. We felt that the way we operated, we wanted to have the rest of our team learn from all of the positives and also all of the mistakes that we made. And they need to understand also, because the more that they understand, the more ownership they would have in the company. And at the same time, we always felt the philosophy that in order to really grow our team and share back with them, is to really share that knowledge, right? So no matter what position you are in the company or what level you are, if you ask questions, you'll pretty much get the answers. I think whether you wanted to learn more about how we were doing profitability wise, how we were doing sales wise, how to make a particular food or drink, what the recipes or the methods were, those are things that we openly shared with our team members. So the risk for that, and the caveat to that, definitely is that, yes, when those team members leave, they will take that knowledge away with them, for better or for worse, right? And I think we definitely see that. Sometimes a lot of the food concepts or ideas that we have, we'll see something similar out there, and I think at the same time, it's also a good thing, right? Because I think we encourage, we encourage and we inspire others to do better.
Yeah, of course. Since 2003, of course, like, you guys have been the trailblazers, like you mentioned. Of course, a lot of people have been inspired, and when you touched on, I think a very important fact that even a F&B group as big as Ismaya is always still in their toes. I think it's quite surprising for every one of us to hear that. But I think that's something that we all can learn from. Like, maybe we're all just students right now and still starting out, but even at that point, we should keep on striving for something greater. And I think we know that you're also in specializing in the F&B division, and we know that Jakarta Culinary Festival was a big event at the time. How did the idea come into fruition? And yeah, could you share a bit of how the event went?
Actually, Jakarta Culinary Festival, or JCF, is very close to my heart. It's a project that I was able to lead, that was under Ismaya Live. Amongst the 5 partners, I think we all try to split up as much as we can and back each other up as much as we can based on workload. And at the time, it was something that not only was I passionate about, but I think I probably had the most bandwidth and capability to lead this particular project, while my other partner was focusing on the music events. So Jakarta Culinary Festival really was an inspiration to achieve what we wanted to do, was to create, to put Jakarta and put Indonesia on the map, right? I think that's in line with our vision and our goals for Ismaya Group overall, is to put this country, Indonesia, on the global map as being one of the destinations for a gastronomic capital, for a great country that delivers great brands and events that are world class. And having seen how wonderful the culinary community actually is in Indonesia, we just felt that there was not enough exposure at the time of the chefs that we have, the wonderful talents that we have, the wonderful foods that we have. And at the same time, we also recognize that there are so many foodies in Indonesia, right? And people people love to go out and eat, and they love to celebrate good food together. And there wasn't much of a platform yet at the time. So that was the driving force why we created Jakarta Culinary Festival. We saw just in neighboring country, Singapore had a great food festival called the World Gourmet Summit, which the format was more of dining in restaurants or pop-up restaurants, and it would showcase a well-known chef. We also saw another format in Australia as well as in London called the Good Food Show. And that one, the format was more like a food exhibition where you would have stalls of different suppliers showcasing the latest and greatest in the food industry. And then my favorite was another festival called Taste Festival at the time, which is also out of Australia. And they also had that across other countries like Dubai and the Middle East. And that format was more of an outdoor format where they had a lot of famous restaurants from whatever country was hosting that event or city was hosting that event. And they would have pop-up booths, and it brought the community together. So we thought that it would be great if somebody actually put these three different formats in one big festival. And that's what we did with Jakarta Culinary Festival, is to actually celebrate as a community, as an F&B community, and bring everybody together. It was, it was very demotivating at first because nobody actually wanted to build a community around this. In the beginning, it was kind of like pulling teeth, trying to get everybody together to do this, because it would mean that it was cost out of pocket for every single person who was involved. And ideally, we would be in a country where we would get a lot of sponsorship and government support for putting together events like this. In other countries, that's the case, where they would get that government support or huge sponsors coming in to fund the event, so that all the F&B players could actually be more participants and not be so much the organizer. And I think for us, we felt that after several, I think it was even almost a year, we tried to get the community together. In the beginning, it didn't seem like there was a lot of traction. And it seemed like everybody wanted to take part in it, but not so much operate it. So we felt it was more of our passion. We didn't even think about the business return. To be honest, I think for the first 3 times we did this JCF, we were actually losing money. And for us, it was more just about putting the community together, and we felt that it was good experience for us. It also, quite frankly, it's good. It's good brand exposures for our brands who participate in this festival. And more than anything, for me and the company, was that it was a good networking opportunity. So we never saw it as a loss, because we felt that what we get out of it is, number one, we build a better network, not just amongst all of our F&B peers. We build a better network with our suppliers. We build a better network with the international community. And from all of that, it's going to benefit not just the community, but also to Ismaya Group, where I think the more and more people know about what we're doing here in Indonesia, the more and more that they'll have respect for the country, and also start caring about all the different brands that we have. And so fortunately, the first couple of events were a huge success in terms of numbers of visitors, in terms of media exposure. So and more importantly, I think that a lot of the feedback that we received from the guests who came, all the chefs who took part, all of the different restaurants in the community who took part. So I think it just became something that was expected every single year, for everybody to just kind of rely on us to be the organizers and deciding how the event would run every year. So yeah, so I think we're very glad to see that the event has done well over the years, and of course over the years too, after it's proven itself, we were fortunate enough that at some point we started breaking even as we had more and more sponsors come into play and supporting the event. But of course now, with the pandemic, we're unable to continue it. Same with some of the other Ismaya Live events. So we just hope that as things get better, then we'll start being able to have events again.
Yeah, I think a recurring word from our our sharing session is like passion and also consistency. I think even though you saw that potential, and even though you had to overcome some hardships, being consistent and sticking with the vision, I think that was very fruitful at the end of the day, because maybe that was back in 2019, and now I think more than ever, like you said, the foodie community in Indonesia is quite large actually, and I think that really like made that stood out. So thank you for that sharing session. We'll move on to Q&A because I think a lot of people have questions for both Kathleen and Frans. So Bimo, if you would like to take it away.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Cherise, for sharing your questions and talking about the F&B business and lifestyle business with Frans. Now I'd like to bring some questions from the Google form from people, from our participants. Kathleen, if you can also share your video, this is also some questions for you. So we have Winston Stiadi from UW-Madison. Due to the pandemic, there's been a lack of traction for established restaurants and businesses. So could you tell us like some tips on how to continuously revitalize F&B brand in consumer eyes during the pandemic period? Anyone could start.
Kathleen, do you want to start first?
Sure. So actually one of the things that how we can survive during this pandemic was actually our concept is mostly takeaways concept. So we are not in dine-in, right? Mostly takeaways. So we minimize our overhead in a way, right? No dines in. And then moving forward, I've seen this is as a key for us to moving forward is to maximize the productivity of how small your store is, but you need, but then you can increase your productivity, your sales, your revenue through each square foot of your outlets, right? Yeah.
Okay, Frans.
Yep, I completely agree. I think the pandemic has allowed us to relook at a lot of the way that we do our operations, a lot of the way that we do business, and it's allowed us to operate a lot more efficiently. I think increasing deliveries is definitely one strategy. Deliveries and takeaway, and making sure that we have the vehicles to support that. Traditionally, Ismaya has not had very strong delivery sales in the past, just because we didn't focus on it. And this pandemic really accelerated all the efforts that we wanted to do that was initially in the back burner or a second priority, because the first priority back then was actually growing the number of outlets that we had. But with the pandemic, we learned how to be able to operate a lot more efficiently in terms of using technology, such as the online ordering platforms, such as a more integrated POS system that allows our consumers to actually order without server support. And also for us, it's also increasing a lot of our digital marketing efforts, where I think for us before it was, we're a little bit more old school, maybe compared to a lot of the new F&B brands out there. Instagram was a secondary platform for us, and I think we relied on it a lot more during the pandemic. And so, yeah, I think for us, it's also looking at new businesses, right, in order to survive, and that's why we grew the cloud kitchen efforts with Yummy Corp. It's an extension, it's a sister company that we have that helps us actually take a lot of our brands online without us having to actually invest in new physical brick and mortar locations, since they can operate in more cloud kitchens.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Staying in the pandemic topic, Marcel Christianes from UI has a question regarding the pandemic. what do you think about the recent surge of like, I don't know if you're aware, but there's like been a surge of like F&B businesses selling via IG during the pandemic. Do you think it's just a thing? It's just a pandemic thing, or is it going to be, or is it going to be a trend that will persist going forward?
I think for this pandemic is actually a very great opportunity for everyone to have a reset, actually to reset and reassess their priority. I think what Frans said about efficiency really makes sense, right? And it really challenges us entrepreneurs to look for new channels and new ways to new strategies, right? And then for rural areas, tier 2, tier 3 cities, it's very different landscape than in Jakarta or tier 1 cities, where actually online caterings are very saturated, right? You can easily order via GoFood, GrabFood, or IG. You mentioned, right? A lot of these people, especially in my market, still depend a lot on the offline channels, the presence of sellers. So yeah, well, like you said, there's a lot of new sellers trying to sells through these online platforms, for example, IG. But I think for my market, especially for rural areas, offline channels still the main drivers for this. But yeah, it really forced this market to know more about technology and to adopt more about technology. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's amazing to see just how many people are going into business online, and I don't blame them. I think it's great to see that there's so many entrepreneurs developing new brands, and a lot of people who have the opportunity to do so are actually coming out to be some good strong brands from this whole process. It's hard to say whether I don't think it's easy to it's good to overgeneralize that some these businesses will either all do well or not do well. I think there will definitely be some that will survive, and some will not, whether it's because the concept didn't work, or some it could just be because of that particular person's conditions. I know very well that there are some people that I know are friends that are doing this just primarily because they have more time on their hands, or also because of the fact that they're doing something in between jobs, and once they have a new job that they were able to find again, they've actually shut down the operations. So I know the situation varies from one person to another, but I definitely like what I see, and I'm glad to see that there's so many different concepts that are mushrooming during the pandemic.
Yes, I mean, I have a friend that's like making an F&B business right now, so I think your perspective about this could help him also. So we have a question from Rifki Surya, one of our participants. So this is a question specifically for Kathleen. You mentioned that High Cubs target C-class. What are some tips that you have to help empathize with the market that you're targeting, to help you discover more opportunities or gaps in the market?
Yeah, sure. Just like Frans said, right? By the end of the day, I am too very hands-on, right? So why? Because it's very, very important for you to know what the market wants and what the market needs, right? And by the end of the day, whatever your classes is, always look out for their feedbacks and make a decision based on data, right? Because that will bring you far, right? And in terms of this, so whether you're targeting market A, B, or C, always look for their feedbacks, have a feedback loops, right? And yeah, always try to hear their feedback. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you wanna add something to that, Frans, or are you good? I mean, I think you could also share some of your perspective towards empathizing with the market and discovering opportunities in the market.
Just want to add. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Because right now with the platform, right, with the Instagram and Facebook, actually a lot of my market, they still use Facebook more than they use Instagram. And we
Okay.
do have a lot of messages coming from this platform, especially Facebook. A lot of direct messages coming from Facebook actually, and this is one of the learning that coming from my market. They are very honest in the way they're netizen, right? They like to curcol through this platform, right? So they're very um, they like to voice out whatever they're feeling about your product, about your branding, right? So in a way, if your branding, your product is not relevant to what they've seen in the social media or to the news, they will voice it out and they will give you whether positive or negative negative comments.
Yeah, Vimo, I think the only thing that I would add is it's Kathleen brings up a very important point there. It touches on the fact that it's important to know who your consumers are in whatever brand that you are operating. And once you have a better understanding of who they are, then you'll know how to talk to them better, right? You'll know, what resonates with your consumers, what channels are the most appropriate channels to reach them at, when to reach them, what subjects or topics, and how to reach them, right? So I think there's so many ways of channels of communication now. Having that insight of knowing your consumer better is going to be key.
Thank you. I hope that answers Rifki's question. We have the last question from Kenneth Sutejo from Purdue University. So, what are some changes you expect to see in the Indonesian food industry with the rise in popularity of cell-based products, for example, like Beyond Meat, if you're well aware? And will it be something significant in the near future, or simply a dream to come decades away?
I think you should more relevant to France, yeah.
So thank you, Kathleen. It's, coincidentally, a couple of years back before the pandemic, I was invited to attend an alternative protein conference in Singapore, actually. And there was so many amazing companies just beyond, other than just the two big ones that we always hear about, which is Impossible or Beyond. And there are even a lot of startups that are from Asia, from India, from Singapore even, that are creating alternative proteins. And I'm actually very excited about more and more of these coming into Indonesia. Alternatively, I am hoping that amongst some of you who are actually watching, maybe are going to be joining startups or creating startups that are going to go into this space. Because I think that it is definitely a good space to go into. I believe that it's a huge gap. There's not a lot of players that's available yet right now that actually are scalable yet. I think even with Impossible, which is such a great product, but just having the accessibility to that product at a price point that would make sense for operators like Ismaya or consumers is the biggest challenge for a lot of these companies. So yeah, so I definitely think that it's a legitimate business segment and has a bright future ahead of it.
Thank you. Oh, so sorry, we have a last minute question from Erwin Savierus. Hi, I have a question for Hike-Ups. What's your marketing strategy? Is it the same with offline stores?
What's the what marketing strategy?
What's your marketing strategy? How are you promoting Hike-Ups specifically?
Yeah. So actually for Hike-Ups, again, because our market is tier 2, tier 3, and even rural areas, right? This market is very price sensitive and they're very dependent on our offline stores. So most of our strategy is going offline, work with the local KOL, local events, and local buildings of what's the new trend in the market, and always try to listen to them and what's important to them, right? So most of our marketing is actually offline promotions, yeah, in the stores.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Frans, Kathleen, for answering the questions from the participants. I would like to bring Fania to give us a summary of the whole event itself. Thank you so much.
Okay, Yes, thank you, Bimo. Would like to say a massive thank you, first of all, to our speakers, Kathleen and Frans. Thank you so much for lending your time and sharing your experiences and insights about the F&B industry. I'm sure we all learned a lot today, especially for people who are diving into this particular industry. It's amazing to see how the F&B industry keeps on expanding, and businesses like High Cups can help improve and like empower women in Indonesia and provide opportunities for women, and also minimizing gender gap in the workforce. And also Ismaya Group, I'm pretty sure everyone here is familiar with Ismaya. And as Fran said, we should constantly challenge ourselves and also believe in growth. So yeah, thank you to everyone for joining us today, and see you on our next event.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vanya. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.